So I'm here with Andy Atkins Kruger, which is another friend, probably actually one of the longest in the industry that I've known. We've known each other, though we haven't met much lately, for probably 15 years, close to.
Yeah, I would think it's at least that. Yeah, I remember we had Christmas together in Salzburg. Do you remember that?
Yes, and
your family and my family.
And we were hurting birds or gooses, or what was it?
Yeah, geese. Yeah.
We weren't hurting them. We were hurting them. No, we were hurting.
Yeah.
No, what was it? It's hurt or hurt?
Herding, I think,
herding.
Is what you mean.
Yeah, I've people tend to hear that I'm kind of mismanaging birds when I tell that story, but actually just trying to get them to go in a certain direction.
Yeah.
Had a big laugh with Dixon Jones about this recently, and so it's
yes,
it's a really good story.
Yes. Talking about the history, do you remember the 3-person comic stints you, I, and Dixon used to do at the International Search Summits back in the day?
Oh man, no! What? Bring it up.
The three of us used to stand at the mic, and we used to say, "What's the worst thing you can think about in search this week?" And it was like, "Well, I think the worst thing is this." No, that's nowhere near the worst thing. This is the worst thing.
Yeah. Like a bit of a role playing, but
yeah, it was great. People loved it.
With
it
some
really
humor.
Good.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's good times. And I've been interesting that this is the first year where Reykjavik Internet Marketing Conference won't be held for 16th, would have been 16th or 17th time.
Yeah.
But
you're in quite a lot of company there, because
yeah,
Mobile World from Barcelona was also cancelled. Yeah. That's 110,000 delegates.
Yeah. So what I've been doing basically is to reach out to everybody that has come to Iceland, and I kind of consider friends and colleagues. Colleagues and friends, depending on how you look at it, but friends and colleagues. Yep. Always friends first and colleagues next. So how are things? I see that you have Barcelona in the back. No, was it Sitges?
Sitges.
Okay. How
so Sitges is 40 kilometers away from Barcelona. But it's Barcelona province. Yeah. So Barcelona is like half an hour's drive for us, or quicker on the train even.
I went on honeymoon with my wife to Barcelona, and we actually went to Sitges, and it's a beautiful place.
Yeah. Yeah, funny thing about Sitges is that you meet quite a lot of people here. So recent visitors we've had, and Barcelona, of course. Recent visitors, we've had people like Chris Sherman. We've had Chris Silversmith. We had Mike Graham was in Sitges not so long ago.
Okay.
So it's kind of like a regular Tim Ash. It's like, you want to meet people, come and live here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And people look you up. They say, "Oh, I can see you're in Barcelona."
Yeah. Nobody comes.
I'm going to be there next week.
That's like it's like the opposite to Oslo. Nobody comes to Oslo except if they get paid.
Well, at least they're getting paid.
Yeah, exactly. That's true. But no. Sorry. Maybe I should have gone with. I'm retracting that. Some people come without getting paid, actually. But and is your agency is it in Sitges or is it in Barcelona? Where is it? Or are you like you?
We have a business in Spain, but obviously we're all remote, especially at the moment.
Yeah.
So they still have the business in the UK, and then we've got operations in some other countries. But we weren't allowed to use the Webcertain trademark in Spain.
Okay.
Because somebody owns that. We own it, but because somebody owned it, we weren't allowed to use it. Okay. So technically, the business in Spain is called Certainty Web Marketing.
Nice.
But we just use Webcertain, trading as.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Certainty Web.
Yeah.
That's like Yoda saying I am, yes. Certainty Web.
yeah. It's funny because people that are employed by Certainty Web, they talk about, well, I work for Certainty, and people in the UK say I work for Webcertain.
Yeah.
Because we're all one team, really, but it's just one of those things that we're more certain than the rest.
Yeah. But you're in York, still in the UK, or?
Yeah, the business remains headquartered in York, and the majority of staff are still based in York, although at the moment they're a little bit more distributed than they are normally, because some people have gone not just home, but they've gone to parents' homes or relatives' homes, and So they're based a bit more widely away from the office than usual. But that's just the circumstances that we're in at the moment.
And how are you like? I mean, how are you coping with that? Is that like, is it working? Are you team delivering and clients happy?
Yeah. Well, we're working at 110% actually. So what I mean by that is that we've actually had to bring in extra staff right now. So we've been fortunate because, as many of us do, we have lots of clients in the travel industry, and of course they're quieter, significantly quieter than usual. But we also have a lot of B2B clients that, technology clients, for instance, and they've actually increased their activity. So it's kind of counterbalanced a bit with other stuff. So
Are these
certainly at the moment.
So are those the technology? Is it B2B or is it B2C?
We're mainly B2B as an agency.
Yeah. Okay.
So we have a few B2C clients, but mostly we're B2B.
Yeah.
And the B2B side of it is probably busier than the B2C side at the moment, I guess. Yeah.
Now I'm seeing the same thing here. Interesting with B2B clients, they've all either just turned completely off or they are stepping up.
Yeah, one of the things that we've discovered, which we didn't really anticipate, was that there's two spectrums as to why people don't want to do anything at the moment. One is because they've all gone home and there's nobody there to do it and they don't have any customers. That's understandable. But the other one is some clients have got so busy that they don't want to generate any more demand. Oh. So those have also reduced their amount of spend at the moment. Yeah. So. But I mean, certain things we're seeing a lot of activity around, like webinars, for instance. Yeah. We're doing a lot of work on and for webinars on behalf of clients. Yeah. And that's become, I think that will probably stay, and I think that's become a part of what they're now talking about as the new normal. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of activity that's more remote kind of based, and we've also, obviously, we as a business do a fair amount of translation as a part of our activities, and we've done a lot of COVID-19 translations for websites that need to put warning messages out or messages about what they're doing, and those typically need to be produced very, very quickly because they want to get them out in a short space of time. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's kept us busy. We're still concerned, and jury's out about what might happen in the rest of the year, because who knows at the moment? We don't really know, do we? And I think there's obviously going to be some economic impacts somewhere along the line. So we're doing our best to run as fast as we possibly can to try and stay ahead of the curve, although we have no idea what curve that is.
It could be the curve on the sea behind you.
Yeah.
Yeah, be that curve. So
yeah. Well, the funny thing about that sea behind me is that, by the way, is not quite behind me, but it's the view from this house, and we haven't been to the sea now for 6 weeks because we're not allowed to.
Okay.
So we've been locked down. This is literally, I think we're in our 7th week now, and we've been locked down, and we're not allowed. And unlike some countries, we're not allowed to go out and take exercise unless we have a dog. We don't have a dog.
Oh.
No. So there are some enterprising individuals who have set up websites to rent dogs, but so far we've not bothered to rent a dog. And our cats, we're not prepared to go on a lead and go for a walk. Yeah. So we haven't had the opportunity to go for a walk because we don't have a dog. Yeah. So we haven't actually been to the sea. So although we can see it from where we live, we can't actually get there at the moment, which is a bit strange.
So how long is this going to last?
Well, it's just been extended here in Spain from the 27th of April to May the 9th. Okay. And the situation in Spain is improving a bit. There was actually a party in this part of Sitges is known as Valpineda, and in Valpineda, which is, if you imagine, it's a hill, a sort of a hill at the top of Sitges, where the Penedès starts, where the Cava wine industry begins. And last night there was a fleet of police and Mossos de Esquadra and ambulances that arrived in our little quarter of Sitges with the sirens blazing away. Yeah. And we thought, oh my God, what's going on? Something serious.
Yeah.
And then there was clapping. And so we went up to our upstairs window to watch from, from a distance as to what was
Yeah.
going on. And we don't know exactly what the circumstances are, but somebody was obviously, we think, returning from hospital having recovered.
Okay.
And there must have been something to do with the emergency services or ambulances or something.
Yeah.
And so they all turned up to celebrate the fact that this had happened.
Yeah.
And it made me think that one of the reasons why Spain has a particularly strict lockdown
Yeah.
is because when it ends, there's going to be one heck of a party.
Okay. So there's
And,
on
and, and
off.
obviously the social distancing will
Yeah.
evaporate very
Yeah.
quickly. And I think that's something that the Spanish need to be a little more careful about
Yeah.
than some others. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So Norway is relaxing a little bit. School starting on Monday.
Oh, really?
May,
Yeah, schools are not back for us.
but the kids are just the first 4 grades, I think,
Yeah,
and the kids have to have 1.5 hour between them, and then 1.5 meter between them. And
yeah,
during school, they only have one teacher, so one teacher has one set of class, but they diminish the class from 28 kids maybe to 15 kids.
yeah.
And when they're outside, they're supposed to play in groups, and it's being rolled out. I don't know how they're going to manage, but
Mm,
kids will be kids. But
yeah.
and uh, last time we spoke, you had 2 kids, Luke,
Yes,
uh,
yes.
and
We've still got, we've still got two.
still got 2. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
and
We
no
now
dog.
have 2 cats, but
And
we're still a 2
can't you
children
go out and
family.
walk the cats?
Yeah, well, they don't want to go.
Oh,
They completely refuse.
yeah,
They're not cooperating. They're not on lockdown, you see, because they're out and about. So
yeah. But
they don't care.
there were these 2 cats in New York that got the virus apparently. So
The tigers or something, wasn't
it
it?
was, I don't know, it's something. It's just crazy,
Yeah,
and probably only because it was in New York. And
yeah,
you were York, Webcertain.
yeah.
Why did you go to Barcelona
You've been to
or
Barcelona?
to Spain?
Yes. Why did you go to Barcelona for your honeymoon?
Yeah, no, yeah, it's true. But why? Okay, so it's the same reason, but you're just staying longer there. Yeah,
No, the true story is that years ago we launched a training operation, and we were looking for somewhere to run our training from,
yeah,
and we looked at Venice and
yeah,
Nice and Barcelona. We picked Barcelona because it had lots of plentiful supply of accommodation that was relatively inexpensive,
yeah,
and the airport was only a quarter of an hour's drive from the main city.
yeah.
So we set up our training operation here,
Mm.
and I was coming in to deliver some of the training some of the time. Most of it ended up being for Yandex over time, but so I was traveling in once a month to Barcelona for a week to
Yeah, yeah,
deliver the training, and the family started coming with me, and we started to get sort of more interested and attached to the town. And then there was this thing that went on in the UK. They did this really weird thing called a referendum to do with Brexit.
Okay, so
And
hold on. Just like I was warned about this, let's not
yes,
go there.
yes, don't go there. But you asked me how we ended up here, and
Yeah,
that's how we ended up here. So the 24th of June, the
yeah.
day that the referendum result was announced, was the day that we announced we were coming to Barcelona.
Okay.
So we moved the whole family 2 months after that. In fact, the two families from the business moved here,
Yeah,
and we weren't able to get school places in Barcelona city,
yeah,
so we could only get them in Sitges.
yeah,
So we didn't really know anything about Sitges. So, but we needed the school places, so we
yeah,
moved to Sitges. And after about 3 months, we decided we didn't like the school, but we did like Sitges. So the children went to local schools in Sitges instead,
yeah.
and we stayed. So we're now kind of where this is home. We are now adapted Sitgetans, and the children are fluent in both Spanish and Catalan.
Yeah.
The schools teach in Catalan only, so Spanish is a foreign language. So yeah, I mean at the moment they're doing lots of remote schooling, trying their best to look busy when we look at them, and then doing other things when we're not watching them.
Yeah,
But yeah, I mean the children have been very impressive. When we arrived here, they were 10 and 8, and probably that was a good time. They are now pretty much native Spanish speakers and near native Catalan speakers,
Okay.
as well as the English and the German that they
Yeah.
get from
Yeah.
their mother.
Wow. That is absolutely brilliant. And I think
Yeah,
looking at it from my point of view, when we moved to Norway, none of them had the Norwegian language, but it
yeah,
took them weeks or a couple of months to actually get it. I still speak, you could call it Scandinavian, which is kind
yeah,
of a mixture of all the Nordic languages. Uh,
yeah.
but kids are ridiculously clever when it comes to languages, and I
Yes.
see the dual and triple language kind of knowledge does something with their brains also, which is going to be super
Mm.
helpful as they grow older.
It's incredible how children cope with it. I mean, one of the things that amazed me was we went for a discussion with my daughter's school teacher,
Yeah,
and the school teacher explained that she'd told some of the other children off in the class for choosing to speak to my daughter in Spanish
yeah,
because she is now capable of speaking in Catalan,
yeah,
and you can talk to her in Catalan.
yeah,
So the idea that there's this child that's come over and within
yeah,
2 years he's actually not just speaking in one language but a second one,
yeah, yeah,
and he's capable of managing her life in that language
yeah.
is remarkable.
And
And of course, the parents have not been as successful. We've
no,
my wife and I have both worked hard to acquire Spanish. We don't really cope with Catalan at all.
yeah,
We read it because we have to be able to read it, but and we're kind of half there with Spanish. It's a bit Franco-Spanish, bit of Russian, bit of German, anything we can throw in there if it helps us to get to an understanding.
yeah, yeah.
But we're not as the children laugh at our Spanish accents.
Oh man, yeah. Tell me about it. Oh God, I'm told every time I try to speak Norwegian, Dad, just speak English. It's like it's just ridiculous.
Yes, I can imagine.
Yeah, but that's how it is. But
Yeah,
it's all good, and I actually admire them a lot for this. You can see that with my eldest who moved to Germany. He slowly came into the German language,
yeah,
and then he moved back to Iceland. Now he's trying to maintain that, and the kids here
yeah,
with English and Norwegian, of course, and then Icelandic. So it's
yeah.
brilliant. But how are they? So if you moved, that means that one of them is, at least is both kind of getting into the teenage. One of them is
Yeah, yeah. Well, one's 14 and the others will be 12 soon.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
So Lucas is the eldest.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
He's the 14-year-old.
yeah, yeah.
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 He's
What's
now
the name of
taller than his mother.
girl? What's the name of her? Or
Maya.
Maya? Okay, sorry,
Yeah. Yeah.
forgotten about. Sorry, Maya, if
Yeah.
you see this, I should have known. But and your wife, and everybody's happy, and you're doing good there. That's brilliant. And
Yeah. I mean, we're doing as residents of Catalonia, Spain. We're doing okay. We've been through quite a few trials and tribulations.
uh,
So of course we were here for the independence movement, the Catalan independence
oh yes,
referendum.
wow, and
So I was told at that point by many of my friends, for God's sake, wherever you move next, we're not going there because you're going to just cause more political strife. Because everywhere you go, there's a referendum and trouble. So, but fortunately, that's now past us, and things are calmer
yeah,
than they were. But we had an office at the time in Barcelona, and we couldn't get out at night because there were like 100,000 protesters on the streets
yeah.
outside the office. So those were interesting times. We've packed in a lot in a short space of time, really.
Yeah. So you when you write the book, it will be called the referendum of my life.
Yes, it'll be called the continuous referendum, I think. And of course, then we've had a few weather issues. Spain's been hit very hard with big storms. We've had flooding in Sitges a few times.
Okay.
We literally there was one flooding where all of the, if you can imagine, bars have those barrels outside, which people sit there and have a drink at on their stools. Well, all the barrels and all the stools just floated down the streets into the sea
Okay. So
because
that's
there was
so
so much water.
heavy rain.
It was literally monsoon. It was incredible.
Wow.
We had a storm that this is in August of last year.
Yeah.
We had a massive storm
Yeah.
where the lightning was continuous for 30 minutes. Now that doesn't sound like a lot when you say it, but
Oh,
just imagine that you're looking at the sky and there is a flash of lightning going on continuously all the time. It's incredible. I've never seen anything
you're talking
like it
about
before.
30 or 13.
30 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm just continuous. And the rain at the same time was, they were talking about, it was like 100, because in Spain they talk about the liters per hour.
Yeah.
And that one was like 100, I think it was 112 liters
Yeah,
per hour or
yeah,
something. Whereas the normal for a big heavy rainfall is about
yeah,
40.
yeah,
So it was well over double the
yeah,
normal
yeah.
amount you'd get in a heavy rainstorm.
And this is during winter season or
No, August. It's powered by the sun and the heat, and comes off the
yeah,
Mediterranean
yeah,
Sea. So it picks up a lot of water from the sea, and and the Balearic Islands also were hit by this same
yeah.
storm. They had a lot of issues as well.
And this
And
and
then
this
the bit
yeah.
down the coast, there've been various instances. We were just hit that one time, but lots of other parts of the coast,
Yeah.
the eastern coast of Spain, have had big storms this last year as well.
And this is all Trump's fault.
Well, I mean, that goes without saying, doesn't it?
Yeah,
I mean,
goes without
he's responsible for
for
global
everything.
warming,
Yeah,
for the virus,
everything.
for the referendums. It's all his fault. I mean,
Exactly.
he's definitely at the back of it
Yeah,
all.
it's just all his fault. That would be his gravestone. Um,
Yeah,
but I say, like during these times, Andy, and like one of
yeah,
the things you spoke about a little bit earlier, like the reason why I'm doing this is just reach out to colleagues and friends, and
yeah,
I'm not doing the conference this year for the first time in 15, 16, 17 years, as I mentioned.
yeah.
And so I've been reaching out to people that have been there. But one of the things that I would love to get from you is what is like those who are being hit by the COVID, small businesses, medium-sized businesses, whatever. What is like? Do you have a couple of tips that you would want to throw out there?
Well, it's got to be online,
Yeah,
for sure. I mean, that's stating the obvious, but look for people that can manage their businesses online and that therefore are going to have a need. So, for instance, I was talking to another agency yesterday. A friend of mine runs this agency. He was telling me that there is a butcher in Scotland that is manically busy at the moment because
yeah,
they're selling meat,
yeah.
frozen meat online.
Mm,
So, that's not necessarily the kind of business I would have expected to do well
no.
in this, but I think that's an example of how businesses can, help them to go online, help them to make money online is probably the best way that you can help your business, but also save some of the businesses that otherwise might be suffering.
So use this time for just take the step, do the transaction, move online, even if you're a butcher, if you are a butcher.
Yeah,
So if you think about it like this, all the companies that had a proper infrastructure, some infrastructure in regards of selling online are companies which probably are doing better off than the ones that don't have.
yeah. Well, absolutely. And I mean, you take the example of Amazon, for instance, which has a very big operation in Spain. They built a warehouse at the side of Barcelona airport that's almost as
Yeah,
big as the airport. And they have been recruiting, 100,000 staff and putting up wages and so on. And we get regular parcels every couple of days in our house, which are deliveries for business and office and
yeah,
children and whatever it might be. And we're using Amazon.
yeah.
At the same time, the supermarkets in Spain, when the lockdown happened, all stopped their online activities because they wanted to make sure that they did everything right with the supermarkets and delivered. But what a mistake. So now Amazon's coming in and taking some of that space
Oh my
they've
God.
that they've given up. And the reason they did it was because their online operations were not as advanced and sophisticated as Amazon and others. And so they concentrated on what they knew, but
Yeah,
that wasn't a good plan.
yeah.
Um,
Oh,
so they're going to find it very difficult to get back into that
wow.
space
I got
again afterwards.
it's so as long as they don't go like I got this mental picture in my head where John Cleese or somebody's walking down the street, bring out the dead, dong. I'm not dead.
Yes, that wouldn't be a very good meme in Spain at the
No,
moment.
I was talking about the
The businesses.
Yeah, the businesses in general, because
Yeah, yeah,
what is interesting about businesses is that you have what was the I mean, like, just if you take the travel, nobody saw this coming, and nobody seems to have been ready for anything. It looks to me that businesses are run short term. This goes back into I'm going to put some SEO analogy on it.
yeah,
SEO is struggling most of the time internally at companies because they don't have a long-term vision of marketing. It's normally governed by quarterly budgets. If you're lucky, you have an annual budget. And SEO is something that needs time, and it needs to have investment, and needs to have a buy-in from the right people.
yeah,
So let's take that into companies like the ones you mentioned. They are losing out because they didn't have the infrastructure. They didn't have things ready. They weren't ready for this,
yeah,
and that means that companies which are agile can spring up and take ownership of things. Which the butcher is a really good sample of that,
yeah.
and so on. So it's interesting to see that short-termism. Sorry, that short.
But I think Kristjan, it's probably not so much short-termism as lack of education. I think the reason these businesses have made this decision when they did was because they didn't appreciate how much of an online opportunity there was going to be in this.
Yeah, yeah.
So they reverted to what they knew,
Yeah,
rather than imagined how things might change.
yeah,
So the short-term thing is, I understand exactly what you're saying. For instance, about SEO, we've all had that problem of trying to get people to invest in something that's not going to give a quick buck now. But the people that have pulled back on opportunities that they could have exploited are really doing it because they just didn't understand
yeah, yeah.
that the opportunity would be there. So I suppose one of the things you could draw from that is one of the opportunities in this crisis is education.
Yeah,
The senior managers in particular
yeah,
should be going out there and looking at what's going on and figuring out how they can capitalize
yeah,
on it.
yeah.
Because one of the trends that is clearly present is that it's funny, it's a trend of a trend. It's that the existing trends that were there but were progressing at a certain speed have now accelerated and are becoming much more strong and urgent trends.
Yeah.
So look at the trends that there were, and just imagine which ones they're going to expand, and get on those, because they're moving ahead like tornadoes.
So so here's my kind of point to this: is 2020. Lack of knowledge should not be an excuse, and I'm going to give you. I'm going to quote probably a friend of mine, and you probably know him, Nick Wilson from Vodafone.
Of course, yeah.
He told me that companies have been forced from thinking digital first to thinking digital only. And what do you do when you have to think digital only? What type of knowledge do you need to have? What type of investment do you need to have to be able to do that? And this is the tricky part of the situation that we're in. How are you able to look at the opportunities that is out there and capitalize on it? And I'm going to put another story in here. A couple of years ago, I was approached by a company that is they're an online retailer. They're quite big in what they do. They're actually not native to online. They just had websites, but they only had stores, a lot of stores throughout the Nordic markets. And they had sat down with their bank with their business plan, and was for 5 or 10 years, whatever. And the bank looked at the business plan and says, "Well, hold on, there's no e-commerce." And the guy said, "Well, actually, we've been doing fine for the past 60 years with our stores, so we're going to be fine." And then the bank goes, "But hold on, you are losing here every year now, double-digit numbers or something like that. And if this trend goes on, you're going to be out of business. What are you going to do with the likes of Zalando and whatever?" So they were forced to do another business plan.
Yeah.
And that business plan included an e-commerce store. And now it's Kotler's child. Nobody wanted to own it. It was owned by a brilliant person who actually managed to do brilliantly with it in the end. And gave a little bit of actually a really good proof of concept, which means that most of the brand rolled out e-commerce. But the moral of the story, and then the twist to this is that the the top level people didn't want to have ownership of it because they didn't understand it, and or they didn't trust it would roll out, because then they would look poorly. But as soon as it started to roll out properly, they took ownership of it.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that
they got
suddenly
on the bandwagon.
yeah, suddenly that became their product. They became their,
Yeah,
because it was
yeah,
doing so great. And I think the problem is that we have that brand is one of tens of, if not hundreds, that you and I have come across, where they
yeah,
think they're in really good shape, but actually they're not, because they're not future proof.
yeah. I mean, I've been writing newsletters for our clients, trying to predict the kind of things that might happen in the future. And, you know, there are some crazy things that you have to think are likely to happen. For instance, the people that develop houses and sell houses are going to have to think about the fact that sticking a corner under the stairs where somebody can call that their office is not going to be acceptable anymore. They're literally going to have to include an office in the plan, because everybody's going to want to have somewhere that they can work. Not necessarily just for a crisis like this, but in general, there are going to be far more people working from home more of the time. And you know, that means that supplies that are delivered to the house, or the e-commerce side of it, is obviously going to be important. But then you've got things like restaurants. I mean, they're switching to sort of delivering food to people's homes. That's good, but of course, I think also that the people will want to go to restaurants again in the future. But I was watching on the news in Spain yesterday. They were showing a restaurant where they were trialing out these things they're called mamparas, which is like a panel of glass that goes between the tables. So they were splitting off the tables with these panels of glass. And I was looking at it and thinking, yeah, but why don't they just spread the tables out more? And you know, I said to Susanna, looking at it, I said, if you are a customer and you are going to look at a restaurant, are you going to go in the restaurant that still has the tables very, very close to each other? Or are you going to go to the one that has fewer tables, but they're well spaced out? So having tables spaced out will become a competitive advantage. Whereas previously you wanted to cram as many tables in as possible to do as many covers and serve as many meals, but that's not going to help you now. You're going to have to look at a new business approach completely.
It's going to be
as well as maintaining the, you know, pick food up and take it home and those kind of things.
It's going to be interesting to see how that pans out. There's an interesting side to it. We're now. I try to keep it within half an hour, but we're now like 45 minutes into it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but I love it, and it's not that I'm. Thank you for doing this, and I love.
You're welcome.
Love talking to you. And we should do this. We should catch up, not necessarily like this, but then more in person, and then maybe online. So I just want to say thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for asking.
And I'll follow.
Pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, absolutely, it's brilliant. I love, and we haven't done enough of it over the past years.
No.
So say hi to the family, and
will do. Likewise to your family.
I'll send you a link to the video so you can review it before I throw it online.
Oh yeah, don't worry, be fine.
Okay, I'm stopping the recording.
You didn't ask me any questions that upset me.
No. Well, you had warned me not to go Brexit, so.
Yeah, we tried to avoid it, but it didn't work. But still,
Brilliant.
Okay.
There you go.